Hi, I'm Jason England, and welcome to the one-on-one download for the Classic Pass. I've been doing the Classic Pass for just under 20 years now. I think it's a tremendously useful technique and a versatile technique. If you're a beginner, the move may seem daunting, but I think I understand the right way to teach the basics. If you're an expert, you may still find some things in this one-on-one that you had either forgotten about or never knew or overlooked in the first place. With that in mind, come on in and let's take a look at the Classic Pass. So let's talk briefly about the Classic Pass as it appears in the literature. The move was first described in the mid-18th century in a couple of different places. 100 or so years later, it appears in Hoffman's Modern Magic, 1876, with some excellent illustrations of the basic action. Move along a little bit farther, we've got Expert at the Card Table in 1902 by Erdnase, and C. Lang Neal's The Modern Conjurer, also in 1902. Both of these are great sources for the Classic Pass. Moving a little bit further along in history, we've got the move as it appears in what would now be Tarbell number 1. It's also in Greater Magic, it's in Royal Road, it's in Expert Card Technique. Moving along a little farther into the modern age, you've got it in the Card Classics of Ken Krenzel. You also have it in the complete works of Derek Dingle, as it was described by Richard Kaufman. And you've got it in a million other places as well. And here very recently we've seen an entire book published on the Pass by Gary Willett. We've also seen it in things like Card College 2. John Carney has a terrific description of the Classic Pass as well as some excellent thoughts on the Pass in his book, The Book of Secrets, and many other sources. So those are just some of the biggies. I've distilled information from all of those sources and have made some choices about how I want to do the Pass, and we're going to get into the basic technique as I do it right now. Before we get started, I would like to say that the Classic Pass, like a lot of fundamental yet difficult techniques, is one of those techniques that you're going to personalize over time. So, as you watch this video, you're probably going to see me do things that I don't even mention, things that I'm doing unconsciously or that I'm not completely aware of. You may also see me do things that are at odds with the kinds of written descriptions that you'll read about in some of the classic texts. Like I said, some of these technique alterations or modifications I'm doing on purpose, and I'll try to mention those. Other things I may be doing without even realizing it. It's just one of the things that happens when you live with a move for almost 20 years. So keep that in mind as we get into the basics of the Classic Pass. I hope you'll get something out of this, and with that in mind, let's jump right in. So here's the basic grip for the Classic Pass. I'm holding the deck face down in a left-handed dealer's grip, or what some people refer to as a mechanic's grip. You're going to create a break with the left pinky, left fourth finger, over whatever card you want to pass to the top. So let's say that we're simply trying to pass the Queen of Hearts to the top of the deck. I would have a pinky break about like so, above the Queen of Hearts. You don't have to place the pinky this far into the break, although some people like to do that. It is sufficient to just place the pinky into the deck up to, say, the tip of the nail, something along those lines, something like that. The left forefinger can be curled underneath or can be straightened at your choice. It doesn't really matter for the basic action. The left thumb can either lie along the left side of the deck or can be placed on top like this. I much prefer this way, although some authors teach you to place the thumb across the top like so. But this is the way I'll be teaching it primarily. And you want to make sure that the gap at the left inner corner is closed as much as possible just by pressing that shut. So this is what's going on underneath my fingers. As the deck is held open like so, the pinky is inserted. The rest of the fingers are in the usual places on the side of the deck, and the right fingers help to close the gap at the front. whereas the right thumb presses down at the gap at the rear. So this is the basic position for doing the pass. It's interesting to note that when you're ready to actually do the transposition, the right hand is actually holding the holding the lower packet, and the left hand is actually holding the upper packet. So my right hand is only holding these cards underneath, and the left hand is only holding this upper packet, like so. And it's that action, that holding the upper packet with the lower hand and the lower packet with the upper hand, that enables you to transpose the two packets very quickly, something like that. So again, this is the basic grip for a variety of different classic passes, depending on how you want to get set for it. Any of these will do, and this is the one that I prefer, just like that. The classic pass is actually a family of techniques. It's not really a single technique, at least not the way I think of it. Some people may split that hair a little bit finer than I do. So what we're going to be covering here is the basic action that is applicable to the entire family of classic pass techniques. The regular classic pass, what some people would call a riffle pass, what others would call a dribble pass, and a jiggle pass. You all start with the same basic core technique, and then you add covering motions, and that's what sort of delineates those different terms. With all that in mind, let's take a look at the initial action of the classic pass in the truest sense of the word. So here's the basic action of the classic pass. After you've had a card selected and returned to the center of the deck, in this case the 10 of clubs, and after you've gotten a break above the 10 of clubs in the middle of the deck with your left fourth finger, you're going to get into the proper position. Again, the upper hand holds the lower packet. The lower hand holds the upper packet at this left inner corner right here. And you're going to pull to the right, to the performer's right, with these fingers. It's going to drag this upper portion to the right, like so. And as soon as it drags it far enough so that it clears, you're going to place that upper portion, which is now the lower portion, underneath the deck. That brings our card, the 10 of clubs, to the top. So I'm going to walk you through that one more time. This time with the joker in the middle of the deck. I'm in the proper position. I've squared everything up apparently. And then these fingers straighten slightly and pull and lower. The upper portion goes to the bottom. They lower the upper portion and the joker is brought back to the top. And now we'll take a look at that basic action from a slightly different angle. So here's the basic action from what closer to what a performer would see. There's the king of diamonds in the middle of the deck. I get my break above the king of diamonds back here at the inner left corner. The upper hand holds the lower packet. The lower hand, in this case my left hand, holds the upper packet. And we're going to drag that upper portion to the right. As soon as the packet's clear, it goes back underneath like so, and the king of diamonds is brought to the top. If in an exposed view, this is essentially what's happening. The packets are staying mostly parallel. There's a slight dip as the two packets clear each other like so, and then that upper portion goes underneath. Now, of course, it's the left fingers that are normally doing this pulling action like so, and as soon as the packet clears at the right long edge like so, those fingers push back to the bottom. Done at speed, you get this. We'll show you a card in the middle, the queen of clubs, and she's yanked around and underneath by the left fingers. One more time, the ace of spades. I'm in position and I pull that packet from the top, around and underneath, just like so. Let's take a look at some of the basic actions for covering the classic pass. In its rawest sense, the classic pass is just pulling the top portion down and around to the bottom of the deck with no cover whatsoever. If you're going to do this, you'd better have it up to some pretty impressive speeds, and otherwise people are just going to see the two packets transpose. I'm a big believer that speed helps the classic pass, but I also use covering motions. The most obvious covering motion is misdirection. Simply do the move when the spectator isn't looking. How you manage the audience and how you manage the misdirection for the classic pass is sort of up to you, and it's going to depend on the context of the performing situation. However, although I believe it's okay to use misdirection for the classic pass, I know that some of you out there will want to have your pass to the point where you don't have to misdirect the spectators away from it, that you can actually burn the pass right past them. This is a worthwhile goal for certain people. Certain types of individuals like to be able to do that. I happen to be one of them, although I tend to still misdirect. So with that in mind, we're going to look at some covering actions that will help you to achieve a visually burnable pass. They are a riffling action, a dribbling action, and a jiggling action, and maybe one or two other covering actions. And we'll get into those right now. Here's a covering action for the classic pass. It's known as a riffle, and some people simply refer to this as a riffle pass. Watch very carefully. We have the joker in the center of the deck, and I'm going to pass the joker to the top under the cover of that riffling action. I'll do one more of those for you. Watch the 10 of hearts. And again, I'll pass the 10 to the top under the cover of the riffling action. So here's how that works. The basic mechanics of the classic pass are the same. Upper hand grips the lower portion between the fingers and the thumb. The lower hand grips the upper portion at the left inner corner of the deck like so. And the packets are transposed in the usual manner, just like that. The left hand is going to actually pull that upper packet around and to the bottom. While it's doing that, the right thumb lifts up at the inner corner and riffles what was the lower packet, but it becomes the upper packet as the top part of the deck is pulled underneath. So that's the riffle cover for the classic pass, or simply called a riffle pass. Looks something like that. So here's the performer's view of the riffle cover for the classic pass. You're in the standard position. You've got your finger inserted into the little break at the rear of the deck. Right hand is over the top of the deck, grasping only the bottom half. You're squeezing to cover this gap as much as you can, close this gap as much as you can. And as you move these cards off to the top, you're going to riffle up the back corner, the inner left corner. So it should look like this as you riffle up the back. If we were to turn a card face up like the 2 of clubs, do a little riffle, and there's the 2 of clubs back on top. One more time, we'll leave the 6 face up in the deck, and there's the riffle action for the classic pass. There it is one more time. That's the riffle action from the performer's view. Here is the dribble pass. It's, again, the standard classic pass technique for transposing the packets, except instead of simply dragging this packet to the right, down and underneath, you're actually going to dribble the upper packet onto the lower packet as cover. So watch the King of Diamonds. A little dribble like so. The King of Diamonds is brought to the top, using the same basic mechanics, but with the dribble as cover. There you can see the 9 brought to the top. One more time, face down. Little dribbling action. The Jack of Clubs is brought to the top. One more time with the King of Spades, brought to the top under the cover of that dribbling action. Obviously, it's very difficult to fool the camera no matter what kind of cover you have. You probably can see these packets transpose. Understand that in real life, it doesn't matter what cover you use, you're also going to have just some usual contextual misdirection that helps to conceal the move. But that is the basic dribble action for the classic pass as a cover. Here is the dribble cover for the classic pass from the performer's view. Watch the Jack of Hearts. I execute the pass as I dribble the cards for cover. Interesting thing about this cover is that while sometimes it's difficult to hide this dipping action or opening action of the left hand, by blending it into a apparent catching action of these cards as they dribble, you get a really nice sequence. So even though that transposition action is visible, again, it blends into the basic action of dribbling the cards into the hand. Let me try that one more time. Watch the 10 of clubs. Little dribbling action like so, and the 10 is brought to the top. With the card face up, it would look something like that. Again, it's not meant to be invisible, it's simply meant to be imperceptible. The spectator's eyes should not be able to perceive that a transposition has occurred, although they will perceive that some sort of dribbling action has occurred. And here's the last one, the card face up, and that is a dribble pass or a dribble cover for the classic pass, just like that. So here's the jiggle cover for the classic pass. We start off with a card like the 3 of diamonds in the middle of the deck. Give the deck a little jiggle or squaring action, and the 3 of diamonds is brought to the top. One more time, the ace of hearts in the middle of the deck, and with a squaring action, the ace of hearts is brought to the top. So here's what's going on. We're actually doing the same basic pass mechanics underneath this rapid squaring action. The upper half is still being pulled around and down to the right, like so, by the left fingers. But as that happens, the right hand, which is seizing the original lower half, moves back and forth in what should look like a rapid squaring action, like so. Square those cards up, and the pass is executed under that covering action. There's the 5 of clubs. One last time, the jiggle pass. So here's the performer's view of the jiggle pass. Queen of diamonds starts off in the middle of the deck, and as the pass is executed, the right hand jiggles the top cards of the deck, and the pass is executed. 7 of diamonds could be brought to the top. Watch the 8 of hearts one more time. A little square up action like so. The 8 of hearts is brought to the top. Again, this is the action. The cards are being transposed in the usual manner for the classic pass. But as you do so, the right hand moves forward and backwards in what should look like a squaring action. And in doing so, you bring the card from the middle of the deck right up to the top. One last time, watch the Queen of Clubs in the middle of the deck. A little squaring action, a little jiggle pass, and the Queen is brought to the top. That's the jiggle pass from the performer's view. Here's one last cover for the classic pass. Although you want to avoid a wide swinging or up and down motion, if you want to put a small swinging motion, say from one person to the next as you are executing the pass, that's a good way of bringing the top card or bringing the chosen card to the top. It happens in the action of just moving a couple of inches. your spectator's eyes aren't able to focus on the cards as they move a few inches, and it looks a lot better than swinging wildly for a foot or more. So again, in that action of just moving a few inches as you address one spectator and then perhaps address another spectator, a card is brought from the middle of the deck right up to the top, and you don't have to use much more cover at all. You can do it without any sort of riffle, or you can do it with a soft riffle like I've been doing like that to bring the card right up to the top of the deck. Just a simple move side to side, about 6 inches or so. And the same thing applies to a slight move up and down. You don't have to move a foot or more. Just a couple of inches is enough to prevent your spectator's eyes from being able to focus on the top card of the deck, and the pass is executed in that small movement. Now that you've seen the basic action of the classic pass as well as some of the covering mechanisms for hiding the pass, let's take a look at a few of the things that you can do with it beyond the obvious controlling a card to the top or undoing a cut. These are things that are not original with me. They've been scattered throughout the literature, but I think you'll find some of them interesting. Here we go. So, an obvious use for the classic pass might be for a color change. I've done this for many years. I've had a lot of success with it, even though other people don't like it. I actually have no problems with it. Watch the Ace of Hearts. We're going to turn it into the Eight of Clubs with a simple dribble pass like so. And one more time from the Eight of Clubs to the 5. And I think this is a nice color change. I realize that a lot of people are opposed to this type of use of the move. But again, I've never had any problems doing it and doing it deceptively for lay audiences. Remember, they don't know what's coming. It's impossible to rewind real life, and you can actually get quite a nice color change using the classic pass or one of its variants like I'm doing here as a color change. Here's an interesting use of the classic pass. It's as a false cut. We'll start with the Ace of Clubs on top of the deck, and I'm just going to cut the deck like so to bury the Ace of Clubs. But of course the Ace of Clubs is still on top of the deck. As far as I know, this was first published in the Complete Works of Derek Dingle by Richard Kaufman, and it works like this. A card such as the Jack of Diamonds is already on top of the deck, and in what appears to be a cut of the deck to bury the Jack of Diamonds in the middle, you actually execute a classic pass and follow up that motion with the ending of the legitimate cut, and it looks like the top card is buried. In fact, the top card is brought all the way around and replaced on top. A slight exposed view and done nice and slow would be like this. It goes all the way around and is placed right back on top. One more time at speed, and that's the classic pass used as a false cut. Here's the best tip I can give you on the classic pass. Experiment, experiment, experiment. You have to figure out what works for your hands. I've just been showing you a couple of basic techniques, the original basic action of transposing the two halves combined with a few covers that have been scattered throughout the literature for years. With that in mind, let's take a look at a couple of more little experimentations that you can try to figure out what's best for your hands. The first thing I would tell you to do is to experiment with the thumb position on the left side of the deck. Sometimes try the classic pass with the thumb at the upper left corner like so. And if you don't like that or want to try something different, try putting the thumb at the middle of the left long side like this. Try putting the thumb all the way back at the end like this. You can also try putting the thumb across the top of the deck in this manner and still making the packets transpose. Likewise, you can curl the left index finger under the deck like so, or you can experiment with the index finger at the upper right corner like so. Difficult to do with the cards held vertically. You can also experiment with the right index finger. It can be straight on top of the pack like this when the classic pass is executed, or it can be curled on top of the pack like this when the pass is executed. Also, if you do a riffle pass, that forefinger provides counter pressure for the riffle, so you're probably going to need it there, although it is possible to do a sort of riffle pass with the first finger of the right hand extended. These are all just ways to experiment. Another way to experiment is lower the pack in the hand, like this. You've got less space underneath the deck if you lower the deck in the hand and try to do the shift from here. By the same token, you should experiment with having the pack at the fingertips when you execute the pass. Also, you can adjust how far forward or backwards the deck is in your hand. You can do it from a far forward position like this. You can pull the deck all the way to the rear of the hand so that the little finger is inserted almost halfway up the right long side, like so. Lots of different ways to experiment here. You should also check multiple sources. This has just been a basic overview of the classic pass, and there are a lot more details in other places. Those places will be listed at the end of the video. I hope you've enjoyed our little foray into the basic action of the classic pass. There's a lot more to learn. I'm not showing you everything this move is capable of because we simply don't have time. But if you've ever wanted to tackle the move, I think this is a good starting place. And if you'll pay attention to the sources listed at the end, you'll have all the information you could possibly need on the classic pass. Thanks for watching.